Carrick woke to the sound of cabinet doors opening and closing. For 3 seconds, he forgot. Just 3 seconds of normal consciousness, where the world was still what it had been yesterday. Then memory crashed through him like cold water. The hospital, the machines breathing for Sable, the little girl with his eyes currently rummaging through his kitchen, Eliana, the 3-year-old daughter he never knew existed. He found her standing on a chair, reaching for the upper shelves, her small hands moving systematically through his cabinets. She'd changed out of yesterday's clothes into an oversized t-shirt he didn't recognize, probably from the overnight bag someone had grabbed in the chaos. Looking for something? His voice came out rougher than intended. She didn't startle, didn't even turn around. Cereal? You don't have any. Just protein powder and coffee. I usually eat out. That's expensive. She pulled down a box of granola bars, examined the nutrition label with the serious focus of a tiny accountant, then put it back. And unhealthy. Carrick leaned against the doorframe, watching this stranger who was somehow connected to the woman he'd loved, move through his space with the confidence of someone conducting an inspection. How'd you sleep? Fine. She finally looked at him. You have good water pressure, and your shower has 3 settings. The middle one's best. He hadn't given her a tour. She'd figured out his apartment in the 6 hours since they'd arrived, mapping it like territory she needed to understand before she could feel safe. I'll go get groceries, he said. Make a list of what you want. We can't leave. What if the hospital calls? I'll take my phone. What if they call the landline? I don't have a landline. She stared at him like he'd just admitted to not having running water. Everyone has a landline for emergencies. My cell is for emergencies. What if you lose it? This could go on forever. Carrick recognized the pattern, the need to control variables when everything else was chaos. He'd done the same thing at her age, after his father's first heart attack. Checked the locks 5 times before bed, made sure all the phones were charged, created contingency plans for contingencies. Tell you what, he said. We order delivery. Food shows up, we never leave. Hospital can reach us any time. Deal? Eliana considered this. Okay, but nothing with too much sodium. And check the reviews first. Mom says you can tell everything about a restaurant by how they respond to 3-star reviews. Mom says, present tense, like Sable was just in the other room, not in the ICU with tubes and wires keeping her alive. Carrick's phone buzzed. Both of them froze. He looked at the screen, not the hospital. Mercer, it's your grandfather, he said, and watched something complicated cross her face. Not quite relief, not quite disappointment. Something in between that he couldn't name yet. He answered, Morning. How is she? Mercer's voice was sandpaper and exhaustion. Fed, showered, handling things like a tiny CEO. A sound that might have been a laugh. That's Sable's daughter, all right. I'm still at the hospital. Sable's awake, stable, asking for Eliana. The relief was physical. Carrick felt his knees weaken. But, Mercer continued, Dr. Reeves wants to talk to both of us first. Before we bring Eliana up, there's something about Sable's condition we need to understand. Both of us, like they were co-parents who did this routinely, who had years of shared custody and coordinated schedules behind them, not 2 men who'd been strangers until 14 hours ago. I'll be there, Carrick said. What about Eliana? Bring her. There's a family room. Patricia Chen from Victim Services will sit with her during the meeting. Carrick watched Eliana, who was now organizing his spice cabinet by expiration date, throwing out anything past its prime, most of his spices, apparently. Mercer, he said quietly. What's this meeting about? Silence. Then, decisions. Medical decisions. The kind nobody wants to make. The line went dead. Eliana was looking at him now, that too-old awareness in her eyes. Is Mom worse? No change, he said, which was true but felt like a lie. No change wasn't good. No change meant still critical, still unconscious until this morning, still balanced on a knife's edge between recovery and something neither of them could say out loud. Then why does he want to talk about decisions? Because of course she'd heard. She heard everything. Carrick sat down at the kitchen table, suddenly aware that he was about to have a conversation he had no training for, no script, just the truth, delivered to an 3-year-old who'd already lived through more uncertainty than most adults. Sometimes, he said carefully, when someone's very sick, the doctors need the family to help make choices about their care. That's all this is, talking about how to help your mom get better. Eliana studied him with eyes too knowing for 3 years. You're not lying, but you're not telling me everything either. No, he admitted. I'm not, because I don't know everything yet. But I promise when I do, I'll tell you the truth, okay? She nodded, slowly. Okay, can I bring Mum a drawing? She'd love that. Mercer showed up 30 minutes later with a duffel bag that looked like it had been packed by someone running on pure adrenaline and fear. Eliana's clothes were folded but mismatched. A toothbrush stuck out of the side pocket, and clutched against the bag was a stuffed elephant, worn soft from years of love. Brought her things, Mercer said by way of greeting. He looked like he'd aged a decade overnight. The lines around his eyes were deeper. His skin had a grey cast, but his eyes were sharp, taking in the scene. Eliana eating cereal at Carrick's kitchen table, dressed and ready. Carrick in yesterday's clothes, looking equally exhausted. Thank you. Carrick took the bag. She's been asking about Mr. Trunk. That's the elephant's name. Had him since she was a baby. Sable bought it the day after. Mercer trailed off, but Carrick could fill in the blank. The day after she left me, the day after she decided to do this alone, Eliana spotted her grandfather and launched herself at him. Grandpa, Mom's awake! Mercer caught her, held her tight, and for a moment his composure cracked. He pressed his face into her hair, and Carrick saw his shoulders shake once before he pulled himself together. I know, sweetheart. I just came from the hospital. You saw her? Is she okay? Does she look okay? She looks tired, but she's talking, and she asked about you first thing, wanted to make sure you were safe. I'm safe. Carrick made me cereal. Not the good kind, but it's okay. And his apartment has really good water pressure. Mercer raised an eyebrow at Carrick over Eliana's head. Really good water pressure? Carrick shrugged. Apparently, that was what mattered to Sable's daughter. Why don't you go finish getting ready? Mercer suggested to Eliana. Make sure you have everything you want to bring Mum. We'll leave in 15 minutes. Eliana nodded and disappeared back toward the bedroom, already making a mental list out loud. Drawing. And the picture I made last night. And Mr. Trunk so Mum knows I'm okay. Once she was out of earshot, Mercer's expression shifted. The grandfather facade fell away, leaving behind something harder, more worried. What did Dr. Reeves say when she called you? Carrick asked. Not much, just that she needed to speak with both of us before we brought Eliana up, that there were test results, complications beyond the cardiac event. Complications? Her exact word. Mercer set the duffel bag down heavily. I've been at that hospital for 9 hours. Nobody uses the word complications unless there's something seriously wrong. Carrick leaned against the counter. She's stable, though. Awake, talking. That's good. It's better than the alternative. But stable doesn't mean out of danger. It doesn't mean cured. Mercer rubbed his face. I should have seen this coming. Should have known something was wrong. How could you have known? Because I'm her father. Because I raised that girl, and I know when she's hiding something. His voice cracked slightly. She's been losing weight for months, getting tired easier, but she kept saying she was fine, kept brushing it off, and I let her because it was easier than pushing, easier than fighting with Sable when she's decided she's handling things. The guilt in his voice was familiar. Carrick carried the same weight. All the signs he'd missed 4 years ago. All the ways Sable had been drowning while he was too busy building other people's dreams to notice hers collapsing. She's good at hiding, Carrick said quietly. Always has been. Mercer looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time since arriving. You know her, even after 4 years. You still know her. I knew who she was. I don't know who she's become. She's become a mother. Everything she does is for that little girl. Every choice, every sacrifice. Eliana is her whole world. The implication was clear, and you're not part of that world. You gave up that right when you let her walk away. I know, Carrick said. I'm not trying to insert myself into her life. I'm just trying to help with the immediate crisis. Good. Because Eliana's been through enough without adults making everything more complicated. Mercer's tone wasn't cruel, just protective. A grandfather drawing boundaries around his family. She's resilient, smart as hell, but she's still 3-year-old and her mother just collapsed in front of her. She needs stability right now, predictability, not more chaos. I understand. Do you? Because showing up is easy. Staying is the hard part, and I need to know if you're capable of that before Eliana gets more attached than she already is. The question hit its mark. Carrick didn't have an answer. He didn't know if he was capable of staying. He'd proven 4 years ago that he wasn't. Eliana reappeared, backpack on, stuffed elephant under one arm, a piece of paper clutched in her other hand. I'm ready. Mercer's expression softened immediately. What'd you bring? A picture. For Mom's room, so she has something to look at that isn't boring hospital stuff. She held it up. It was clearly drawn last night, in crayon. On printer paper Carrick had given her. 3 stick figures stood in front of a square house. 1 tall, 1 medium, 1 small. Labels in careful 3-year-old handwriting. Mama. Carrick. Me. Carrick stared at that drawing and felt something crack open in his chest. She'd included him in her family portrait. After less than 12 hours of knowing him, she'd written him into her story. Mercer saw it too. His expression went carefully neutral. That's real nice, sweetheart. Your mama's going to love it. I made us all holding hands, Eliana explained, because that's what families do. Carrick couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. This child who should be uncertain about him, who should question his sudden appearance, had drawn him into her world like he belonged there. We should go, Mercer said, his voice tight. Don't want to keep the doctor waiting. Mission Hospital looked different in daylight, less frantic. The emergency entrance they'd rushed through last night was now just another set of doors. But Carrick's heart still hammered as they walked through, Eliana between them, her small hand in his. Patricia Chen met them in the lobby. The victim services coordinator had kind eyes and the gentle efficiency of someone who'd spent years helping traumatized families navigate crisis. Eliana, she said, crouching to the girl's level. Remember me from last night? Eliana nodded. Your mom is doing really well, but the doctors need to talk to your grandfather and Carrick first. How about you and I go to the family room? We have puzzles and books, and I brought some cookies from the cafeteria. What kind of cookies? Chocolate chip. Eliana looked up at Carrick, then at Mercer. You'll come get me when I can see Mom? The second we're done talking to the doctor, Carrick promised. Okay. She handed him the drawing. Give this to her. Tell her I made it special. I will. Patricia led Eliana away toward the elevators. Mercer and Carrick stood in the lobby. 2 men connected by a woman they both loved, about to learn something neither wanted to hear. Whatever it is, Mercer said quietly, we handle it together. For her. For Eliana. Carrick nodded. Dr. Reeves's office was small and functional. Diplomas on the wall, family photos on the desk. A box of tissues positioned strategically within easy reach. The tissues were never a good sign. She was waiting for them. A thick folder on her desk. Charts, lab results, the kind of documentation that preceded life-changing conversations. Thank you both for coming, she said. Please, sit. They sat. I wanted to give you context before Eliana visits her mother. Miss Elliston is stable now, but there are things you need to understand about her condition and what the next steps look like. Mercer's hands clenched on the armrests. Just tell us. Dr. Reeves opened the folder. The cardiac arrest Miss Elliston experienced wasn't random. It was triggered by severe electrolyte imbalances. When we ran comprehensive blood work, we found the underlying cause. She paused, and in that pause Carrick felt the future shift. Sable has advanced chronic kidney disease, stage 4, progressing towards stage 5. The words landed like physical blows. Carrick heard them, understood the individual meanings, but couldn't make them connect into something that made sense. kidney disease, advanced, stage 4. That's not possible, Mercer said flatly. She's 32 years old. She doesn't drink. She exercises. She's careful about everything. This type of kidney disease is typically genetic, Dr. Reeves explained. It's been progressing slowly for years, likely since her early 20s. The symptoms are subtle at first: fatigue, decreased appetite, mild swelling. Most people attribute it to stress or lifestyle until it becomes critical. How long? Carrick's voice came out hoarse. How long has she known? Dr. Reeves consulted her notes. Based on her medical history and the records we've obtained, she was diagnosed approximately 8 months ago. She's been managing it with medication and dietary changes, but her kidney function has declined faster than anticipated. 8 months. Sable had been living with a terminal diagnosis for 8 months and hadn't told anyone. She didn't tell you either, Carrick said to Mercer. No. The word was barely audible. She didn't tell me a damn thing. Dr. Reeves continued, her voice gentle but clinical. Stage 4 kidney disease means her kidneys are functioning at 15 to 30% capacity. Without intervention, she'll progress to stage 5, complete kidney failure, within 12 to 18 months. At that point, she'll require dialysis to survive. Long term, she needs a transplant. Then we get her on the transplant list, Mercer said immediately. She's already on the list. Has been for 6 months. The silence that followed was suffocating. 6 months, Mercer repeated. My daughter has been dying for 6 months, and she didn't tell me. She was trying to protect you, Dr. Reeves said gently. Her medical history suggests she attended appointments alone, made decisions alone, carried the burden alone because she didn't want to worry her family. I'm not her family. Eliana isn't her family. Mercer's voice cracked. We don't get to know she's dying. I can't speak to her reasoning. I can only tell you what her medical records show. Carrick's mind was racing, connecting pieces, the weight loss, the fatigue, the way Sable had looked in those brief glimpses before she was intubated yesterday. She hadn't just been sick from the cardiac event. She'd been sick for months, slowly fading, fighting, alone. What are her chances? He asked. With the transplant. If we find a suitable donor, excellent. Kidney transplants have high success rates, especially in younger patients, but the challenge is finding a match. Sable has B-negative blood, which is relatively rare. The average wait time for a deceased donor is 3 to 5 years. She doesn't have 3 to 5 years, Mercer said. No. Which is why living donors are the preferred option. The wait time is eliminated, the kidney quality is typically better, and outcomes are significantly improved. Living donors, someone who would voluntarily give up a kidney, someone who loved Sable enough to undergo major surgery for her. Mercer stood abruptly, pacing the small office. I already tried. 2 months ago, when she finally broke down and told me she was sick, I got tested immediately. I'm not a match, blood type's wrong. And even if it wasn't, I have diabetes and hypertension. They told me I'm not a candidate. I saw that in the notes, Dr. Reeves confirmed. You did everything right. Sometimes biology just doesn't cooperate. So what do we do? Sit around and wait for someone to die so Sable can have their kidney? Hope we get lucky before her kidneys give out completely? We expand the search. Friends, extended family, anyone willing to be tested. She doesn't have extended family. Her mother died when she was 19. No siblings, no aunts or uncles. Mercer stopped pacing, turning to face Dr. Reeves. And her friends are colleagues, people she works with. You don't ask your co-workers to donate organs. The desperation in the room was thick enough to choke on. Dr. Reeves turned to Carrick. Mr. Dunn, you're listed as her emergency contact. I don't know the nature of your relationship. We don't have a relationship, Carrick interrupted. We did, 4 years ago. It ended. But she kept your number, starred it, taught her daughter to call you in a crisis. That suggests you're significant to her, even if you're not currently together. The room went quiet. In medical terms, Dr. Reeves continued, that's significant enough that living donor testing could be authorized if you were willing. The suggestion hung in the air between them. Carrick felt Mercer's eyes on him, felt the weight of what was being offered. Not offered, presented, laid out like a map to a destination he'd never considered. "You're saying I could get tested to see if I'm a match?" "If you wanted to, yes. The process involves blood work, tissue typing, cross-matching, psychological evaluation, and physical fitness assessment. It takes several weeks to complete, but if you were compatible, you could donate." "And if I am compatible, what does donation actually mean?" Dr. Reeves leaned back slightly, giving the question space to breathe. "Laparoscopic nephrectomy," she explained. "We remove one healthy kidney through small incisions. You'd be in the hospital 3 to 5 days. Recovery is typically 6 to 8 weeks before returning to normal activity. There are risks, as with any surgery: bleeding, infection, blood clots, adverse reaction to anesthesia. But statistically, kidney donors live normal, healthy lives with one kidney. Your remaining kidney compensates for the loss. 6 to 8 weeks. Major surgery. Risks. For a woman who'd walked out of his life and never looked back. Mercer was staring at him now, something complicated in his expression. Not quite hope, not quite suspicion. Something between them. "I need to think about it," Carrick said. "Of course, this is not a decision to make lightly." "Doctor," Reeves stood, "take your time. If you decide you want to proceed with testing, call my office. If you decide it's not something you can do, that's also okay. Nobody would judge you for that choice." "Can I see her first, before I decide?" Dr. Reeves nodded. "She's been asking for both of you. Patricia will bring Eliana up in about 20 minutes. You have time before then." They stood. Mercer moved toward the door, then stopped. Looked back at Carrick. "She left you," he said quietly. "Walked away and didn't give you a choice about it. You don't owe her anything." "I know. But if you're going to get tested, if you're going to consider this, you need to understand something." Mercer's voice was steady but fierce. "That little girl in the family room has already lost too much. Her grandmother died before she could remember her. Her stability disappeared the moment her mother collapsed. She almost lost the only parent she's ever known. If you step into this situation, you don't get to leave when it gets hard. You don't get to change your mind halfway through, because Eliana will attach to you. She's already attaching, based on that drawing, and I won't let you break her heart the way you broke her mother's." The accusation was deserved. Carrick didn't flinch from it. "Understood." Mercer held his gaze for another long moment, then nodded and left. Dr. Reeves was gathering her files. "For what it's worth, Mr. Dunn, the fact that you're even considering this says something. Most people wouldn't. Most people aren't being asked to save their ex's life. Most people wouldn't care enough to try." She left him alone in the office with that thought and a decision that would change everything. Mercer took Eliana in first, gave them time alone. Carrick waited outside room 247, watching through the window as the reunion unfolded. Through the glass, he watched Eliana climb carefully onto the bed, nurses hovering to make sure she didn't disturb the 4S. Sable was crying, holding her daughter, checking her over like she needed to confirm every piece was still intact. The little girl who'd been so composed, so eerily adult for the past 24 hours, transformed the moment she saw her mother awake. She buried her face in Sable's shoulder, and the tears finally came. Real crying. The kind that came from terror finally released. Sable was crying too, her hands running over Eliana's hair, her back, her face. Her lips moved with words Carrick couldn't hear through the glass. Probably apologies. Probably reassurances. Probably "I love you" repeated over and over. Patricia Chen appeared beside Carrick, her presence quiet and unobtrusive. "That little girl has been incredibly brave," Patricia said softly. "But she's going to need stability moving forward. Routine, familiar faces, especially if Ms. Elliston's treatment becomes more intensive." The implication was clear. Eliana would need more than just Sable. She'd need a support system, a village, people who showed up consistently. "She has her grandfather," Carrick offered. "She does, and Mercer is wonderful, but he's 63 with his own health issues. He can't be everything to everyone. That child is going to need backup, multiple adults she can trust, multiple safe places to land." Carrick watched Eliana press the button that made Sable's hospital bed go up and down, her tears drying as fascination took over. Sable was laughing, wincing slightly but laughing, letting her daughter play with the machinery. They looked so complete, mother and child, a unit that functioned without him. But then he thought of 2:47 a.m., of Eliana's voice saying his name, of the star button Sable had programmed years ago. After about 15 minutes, Mercer brought Eliana back out. The transformation in the child was remarkable. She was smiling, actually smiling, chattering about how Mommy's awake and the machines are cool, and she got to push all the buttons. Mercer's eyes met Carrick's. "She wants to see you." Patricia took Eliana's hand. "How about we go find some hot chocolate? I think I saw a machine down by the cafeteria." Eliana looked between Carrick and the hospital room. "You're going to talk to Mommy?" "Yeah, just for a few minutes. Tell her I drew her a picture. It's the one with all of us. Tell her it's special." "I'll tell her." Eliana nodded, satisfied, and let Patricia lead her away. Mercer squeezed Carrick's shoulder once, brief and solid, then followed them toward the elevators, leaving Carrick alone in the hallway. He'd faced down dangerous situations before, confronted angry clients, dealt with construction accidents, navigated family crises with Odessa. None of it compared to the simple act of opening this door and facing the woman he'd spent 4 years trying to forget. He pushed it open. Sable looked different in daylight. The ICU had been dimmed last night, soft lighting for overnight monitoring. But now, with morning sun filtering through the window, he could see her clearly. She was thinner than he remembered. Much thinner. The hospital gown hung off her frame. Dark circles under her eyes looked like bruises painted on too pale skin. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, pieces escaping around her face. But her eyes were the same, those coffee with cream eyes that had always seen straight through whatever mask he was wearing. Looking at him now with an expression that cycled through shock, relief, fear, gratitude, and something else he couldn't quite name. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi." 4 years collapsed into a single syllable. The machines beeped steadily. The 4 dripped medication into her arm. The room smelled like antiseptic and recycled air. Everything about this moment was wrong, except for the fact that they were both here, both breathing, both present. Sable spoke first. "Eliana called you. You programmed my number, with a star. I didn't think she'd ever actually have to use it. But you made sure she could." Silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid for 4 years. "I'm sorry," Sable said, her voice breaking, "for calling you, for dragging you back into this, for putting that burden on a child, for making you drop everything and show up for a crisis that isn't your responsibility." "Stop." Carrick moved closer to the bed, still careful, still maintaining distance. Eliana was scared. She needed help. You made sure she knew who to call. That's not something to apologize for. "I left you." The words were raw. Stripped of any pretense, "I walked out. I told you never to look for me. I built a life specifically designed not to need you. And then I kept your number anyway, like some kind of insurance policy I had no right to. Why did you keep it?" Sable closed her eyes. Tears tracked down her cheeks, following the hollow of her face. "Because even when I hated you, even when I was so angry I couldn't breathe, even when I was building a life that didn't include you, I still trusted you more than anyone else in the world. And I knew if something ever happened to me, if Eliana ever needed someone, you would show up. You'd fail at a lot of things, Carrick Dunn, but you wouldn't fail at that." The trust embedded in those words was staggering. Carrick pulled the visitor's chair closer to the bed and sat down. His knees felt weak. "The doctor told me about the kidney disease." Sable's expression hardened immediately. She had no right to share my medical information. "She had every right. I'm your emergency contact, which apparently means I get the medical information whether you want me to have it or not. You're not responsible for this. For me, you brought Eliana home last night, and I'm grateful. But that's where this ends. You can go back to your life. I'll figure out the rest on my own. I always do." "You're dying." The bluntness stopped her mid-breath. "You're dying," Carrick repeated, leaning forward. And you've been dealing with it alone for 8 months minimum. Probably longer. I have Mercer. Mercer can't donate. He already tried. His blood type's wrong, and his medical history disqualifies him. Who else have you asked? Silence. That's what I thought. You haven't asked anyone, because asking for help would mean admitting you're not invincible. And you'd rather die than do that. Sable's anger flared, some of the old fire returning. You don't get to judge me. You don't get to waltz back in after 4 years and tell me how I should handle my terminal illness. You weren't there. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what it's like to get that diagnosis and realize your daughter is 3-year-old and you might not see her graduate 5th grade. You're right, I wasn't there. I don't know, but I'm here now. For how long? Until this crisis passes? Until you get bored or busy or remember you have a business to run? The accusation hit exactly where it was meant to, because she was right. 4 years ago, he'd chosen the business over her, over them. He'd let work consume him while she drowned. I want to get tested, Carrick said quietly, as a donor. Sable's anger evaporated, replaced by pure shock. What? I want to be tested, to see if I'm a match for kidney donation. No. Sable. No, absolutely not. I won't let you do that. This is major surgery. This is risk. This is giving up a piece of yourself for someone who walked away from you. I won't allow it. This is me making a choice. The same way you made a choice when you kept my number. When you taught Eliana my name. When you decided that if everything fell apart, I was the person you wanted to show up. That's different. How? Because I didn't expect you to give me a body part. Her voice rose, cracking on the last word. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Miss Elliston, I need you to stay calm. Your blood pressure is spiking. I'm fine, Sable said through gritted teeth. You're not fine. And if you can't keep your vitals stable, I'll have to ask your visitor to leave. Carrick stood. I should go. Wait. Sable grabbed his hand. Her grip was weak, but desperate. Don't go, not yet. You need to rest. I need to understand why you're doing this. The real reason, not the noble answer, the truth. The nurse cleared her throat. 2 minutes. Then he leaves, and you rest. Doctor's orders. She stepped out, leaving the door half open. Monitoring from a distance, Carrick sat back down, still holding Sable's hand. Her fingers were cold, trembling. I failed you, he said. 4 years ago, I failed you in every way that mattered. I chose work over presence. I chose building cabins for strangers over building a life with you. I let you drown while I was busy hammering nails and signing contracts. And you left because staying was killing you. I understand that now. I didn't then, but I do now. Sable was crying openly. I can't fix the past, Carrick continued. I can't give you back those 4 years. I can't undo the damage or erase the hurt or make it so you never had to leave. But I can do this. I can get tested. And if I'm a match, I can give you a chance to watch Eliana grow up, to see her graduate 5th grade and middle school and high school, to be there when she needs you. That's not about us. That's not about our relationship, or what we were, or what we might be. That's about a 3-year-old girl who deserves to have her mother at her birthday parties. And if you're not a match, then we find someone who is. But we start with me. Sable pulled her hand away, wiping at her face with shaking fingers. You could die on that operating table. You will die without the transplant. Those seem like pretty uneven odds to me. I'm serious. Surgery has risks, complications. What if something goes wrong? What if you donate and then you have problems later? What if your remaining kidney fails? What if you stop asking what if and let me make my own choice? She stared at him, and in her eyes he saw the war happening, the desperate need for help battling against a lifetime of self-reliance. The desire to live fighting with the terror of owing someone something this enormous. The nurse reappeared. Time's up. She needs to rest. Carrick stood. I'll come back later, after you've slept, after you've had time to process. Carrick. He turned at the door. Why would you do this? Her voice was barely a whisper. After everything, after how I left, after 4 years of silence. Why? The answer came easily, honestly. Because I never stopped loving you. I loved you when you left. I loved you through 4 years of silence. I loved you through that voicemail played on repeat until I had every word memorized. And I love you now. That hasn't changed. It's never going to change. So if love means giving you a kidney so you can watch your daughter grow up, that's what I'm going to do. He left before she could respond, left her with those words and tears streaming down her face, and a choice she'd have to make about whether to accept help or keep drowning alone. In the hallway, he leaned against the wall and tried to remember how to breathe. Mercer found him there 5 minutes later. How'd it go? I told her I want to get tested. And she told me not to. Then had a blood pressure spike and I got kicked out by the nurse. Mercer almost smiled. That sounds about right. Sable never did know how to accept help gracefully. She gets that from you. She gets that from her mother. Renata was the same way, stubborn as hell, would rather suffer alone than burden anyone. Mercer's expression softened with old grief, but she also loved fiercely, protected the people she cared about with everything she had. Sable's the same. If she's fighting you on this donation, it's because she's trying to protect you, not because she doesn't want it. I know. So what are you going to do? Get tested anyway, whether she wants me to or not. This time, Mercer did smile. Good, because that girl needs someone as stubborn as she is, someone who won't let her martyr herself. He paused, then added quietly, "Welcome to the team, son." The word son hit differently than Carrick expected. Not paternal, not possessive, just inclusive. Like Mercer was making space for him in the family Sable had built. "Now come on," Mercer said. "Let's go find Eliana before she drinks her weight in hot chocolate." Carrick stepped into the hospital stairwell to make the call he'd been dreading. He hadn't spoken to Odessa since yesterday morning. Before the phone rang at 2:47 a.m., before everything changed. She didn't even know he'd spent the night in a hospital, didn't know about Eliana, didn't know he was about to volunteer for major surgery for a woman who'd left him 4 years ago. The stairwell was empty, echoing with the hollow sound of ventilation systems and distant footsteps. He sat down on the concrete steps and dialed. Odessa answered on the second ring. "Where the hell are you?" Huck called. "You missed the Riverside site inspection this morning. The client is furious. He's threatening to pull the contract if you don't call him back within the hour." "I'm at Mission Hospital." Her tone shifted instantly from angry to terrified. "Are you hurt? What happened? Do you need me to come there?" "I'm not hurt, but Sable is." Dead silence on the other end. Then, "Sable, you're Sable, the one who disappeared 4 years ago and told you never to contact her again. She has a daughter, 3-year-old, named Eliana. She called me at 2:47 yesterday morning because Sable collapsed, cardiac arrest. She's in the ICU." Carrick heard Odessa sit down, the creak of her office chair, the sound of her breathing carefully, the way she did when she was trying to process information that didn't make sense. "Start from the beginning," she said. "Tell me everything." So he did. The voicemail he'd kept for 4 years. The star button. Eliana's voice in the dark. The hospital. Mercer. The kidney disease. The transplant list. His decision to get tested as a donor. He talked for 15 minutes straight. Odessa didn't interrupt once. When he finally finished, the silence stretched so long he thought the call had dropped. "Dessa? I'm here. Just processing." Another pause. "Are you insane?" "Probably. This woman ghosted you for 4 years. She built an entire life without you, had a whole child you knew nothing about, and now you're going to give her a kidney? If I'm a match, yes. Why? Give me one good reason why you would do this." "Because she's dying, and I can help." "That's the noble answer. What's the real one?" Carrick leaned his head back against the cold concrete wall. "Because I never stopped loving her, and because there's a 3-year-old girl who needs her mother, and because Sable kept my number for 4 years even though she told me never to contact her. That has to mean something." Odessa was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, Her voice was softer. Tell me about the daughter. Eliana, she's 8, smart as hell, too serious for her age. She made me a drawing with 3 people, her, Sable, and me. She's already decided I'm part of her family. And you're okay with that? Being a father figure to a kid who isn't yours? I don't know what I am, but when she called me in the middle of the night, scared and alone, I showed up. And I'm not going to stop showing up now. Even if it means major surgery, even if it means risk, even if it means completely derailing your life for someone who walked away. Yes. He heard Odessa exhale slowly. You're really doing this. I am. Okay. Her voice was steady now. Decided, then I need to say something, and I need you to really hear me. I'm listening. 4 years ago at that dinner, I was cruel to Sable. I looked at her like she was a threat, like she was trying to take you away from me. I watched her be kind and generous and thoughtful, and all I could see was someone performing, pretending, trying to win approval she didn't need to earn. Carrick remembered that dinner, the tension, the way Sable had tried so hard, and Odessa had met every attempt with cold politeness. I was terrified, Odessa continued. Terrified that you'd choose her over me, that I'd lose the person who raised me, who sacrificed everything for me, and when she left, I thought it proved I was right. That she wasn't strong enough, that she didn't love you enough, that my suspicion was justified. Dessa, let me finish. I was wrong. I was so completely, devastatingly wrong. She didn't leave because she didn't love you. She left because staying was killing her, and I didn't see it. I was so busy protecting myself that I couldn't see she was drowning. Carrick heard his sister's voice crack. She was trying to connect with me at that dinner, Odessa said. She was trying to build a relationship, to be part of our family, and I shut her down at every turn. I made her feel like an outsider, like she didn't belong. And then you got busy with work and she was alone, trying to hold everything together, and I did nothing. I saw nothing. I was too wrapped up in my own fear to see hers. You didn't know. Neither of us did. That doesn't make it okay. And when she left, when you were destroyed, I didn't help. I just reinforced the idea that she was wrong for leaving, that you were the victim. I never once considered that maybe we both failed her, that maybe she left because we gave her no other choice. The admission hung between them. I'm sorry, Odessa said quietly, for that dinner, for how I treated her, for not giving her a chance, for making you feel like you had to choose between us. If I could go back and do it differently, I would. Carrick felt something tight in his chest loosen slightly. She might not forgive you. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need her to know I'm sorry. And I need you to know that if you do this, if you donate and help her and become part of that little girl's life, I support you completely, whatever you need. The business. I'll handle the business, all of it, however long you need. Site inspections, client meetings, crew management. I can do this, Carrick. I'm not the scared kid you raised anymore. I'm capable. Let me prove it. Relief flooded through him. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just promise me something. What? Don't disappear on me. I need to know you're okay. I need updates. I need to be included. Not because I don't trust you, but because you're my brother and I love you, and the thought of you going through major surgery terrifies me. I promise. Daily updates, even if nothing changes. Good. He heard her moving, the sound of keys and papers. Now give me the Riverside client's number. I'll call him. Smooth things over. Reschedule the inspection. You focus on what you need to focus on. Dessa, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Because that's what family does. We show up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. You taught me that. Now let me practice it. The first week after Sable's collapse became a blur of hospital visits, blood tests, and learning how to be present for a 3-year-old girl who needed stability more than she needed explanations. Carrick and Mercer worked out a custody arrangement that felt both temporary and permanent. Eliana stayed with Mercer during the day, while Carrick handled initial donor screening appointments. Evenings, she came to Carrick's apartment. They developed routines, homework at the kitchen table, dinosaur books before bed, the hallway light left on because complete darkness felt too heavy after what she'd been through. Sable remained hospitalized. The kidney disease had progressed far enough that Dr. Reeves wanted her under observation while they regulated medications and monitored her declining function. She was stable but fragile, a woman treading water in the deep end while everyone around her scrambled to find a life raft. Carrick visited every evening after Eliana went to bed. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they just sat in silence, the beeping of monitors filling the space between them. They didn't discuss the donation. Sable had made her opposition clear. Carrick had made his decision equally clear. The standoff continued. On day 3, Dr. Reeves called him into her office with initial test results. "Your blood type is B positive," she said. "That's compatible with Sable's B negative. We can proceed with tissue typing." On day 5, the tissue typing came back. 4 out of 6 HLA antigens matched. Not perfect, but promising. "This is better than we usually see with unrelated donors," Dr. Reeves explained. "We'll need to do cross-matching to ensure her antibodies won't attack your kidney, but so far, you're looking like a viable candidate." On day 7, Carrick sat through a psychological evaluation with Dr. Nina Okonkwo, a transplant psychiatrist whose job was to ensure he understood what he was volunteering for. "Tell me why you want to donate," she said. Carrick had practiced this answer in his head. "Because Sable needs a kidney, and I might be a match." That's the surface reason. What's underneath it? "I love her. I want her to survive." "You were in a relationship 4 years ago. It ended badly. You haven't spoken since. That's a long time to maintain feelings for someone who left." "I never stopped loving her." Dr. Okonkwo made a note. "Has she asked you to donate?" "No. She's actually fighting me on it." "Why do you think that is?" "Because she doesn't want me to take the risk. Because she's terrified of owing me something she can't repay. Because accepting help makes her feel weak." "And yet, you're pursuing this anyway." "Yes. Even though she doesn't want you to." Carrick paused. "She does want me to. She just doesn't want me to. There's a difference." Dr. Okonkwo almost smiled. "Do you understand the risks? The surgery itself, the recovery period, the long-term implications of living with one kidney." Dr. Reeves explained everything. 3 to 5 days in the hospital, 6 to 8 weeks recovery, possible complications including bleeding, infection, blood clots, long-term monitoring to ensure my remaining kidney compensates properly, slightly elevated risk for kidney disease myself later in life. "And you're comfortable with those risks?" "No, but I'm more uncomfortable with Sable dying because I was too scared to try." Dr. Okonkwo studied him for a long moment. Then she signed the psychological clearance form. "You're approved. For what it's worth, I think you're doing this for the right reasons." 15 days after Eliana's 2:47 a.m. phone call, Dr. Reeves summoned Carrick, Sable and Mercer to her office. She had results. The full compatibility panel. The final determination of whether this impossible plan was even medically possible. Sable arrived in a wheelchair, hospital policy, even though she was strong enough to walk short distances now. She looked better than she had 2 weeks ago. Some color had returned to her face. The medications were working, buying her time. But time was still the enemy. Her kidney function continued to decline. 12 to 18 months had become the clock ticking in all their heads. Mercer pushed her wheelchair into the office. Carrick was already there, his leg bouncing with nervous energy. Everything came down to this moment. Eliana was with Patricia Chen in the family room, playing with puzzles, blissfully unaware that the adults were about to learn whether her mother had a future. Dr. Reeves opened the file. "Mr. Dunn, 2 weeks ago you completed comprehensive donor compatibility testing. Blood typing, tissue typing, cross-matching, antibody screening, medical history evaluation, psychological assessment, and physical fitness examination." She paused, and in that pause, the entire room held its breath. "I have the results." Sable's hands were shaking. She gripped the armrests of the wheelchair so hard, her knuckles went white. Mercer's hand tightened on her shoulder. Carrick couldn't breathe, couldn't move. The next words would either give Sable a future, or send them back to waiting lists and declining health, and borrowed time running out. "Mr. Dunn," Dr. Reeves said carefully, You are a compatible donor for Ms. Elliston. The room seemed to tilt. Carrick heard the words, but couldn't quite process them. Compatible. He was compatible. It was actually possible. Dr. Reeves continued, her voice steady and professional. Not just compatible, you're an excellent match. 6 out of 6 HLA antigens, which is extremely rare for unrelated donors. Blood type compatible, cross-match negative, meaning Ms. Elliston's antibodies won't attack. Your kidney, no medical contraindications. This is the kind of match we usually only see between siblings. Sable made a sound, half sob, half gasp, a noise of relief and terror and overwhelming emotion compressed into a single breath. Mercer's eyes closed. His lips moved in what might have been prayer or just wordless gratitude. Carrick stared at Dr. Reeves, trying to make his brain catch up to what she was saying. 6 out of 6. Excellent match. Rare. He could save her. He could actually save her. This doesn't guarantee success, Dr. Reeves cautioned, her tone shifting to realistic. All surgeries carry risk. Transplant rejection is always possible, though compatibility this close makes it unlikely. Complications can occur. But if you choose to proceed, Mr. Dunn, Ms. Elliston's prognosis improves dramatically. How dramatically? Mercer asked, his voice rough. Without transplant, she has 12 to 18 months before complete kidney failure. With dialysis, she could extend that, but quality of life decreases significantly. With a successful transplant from a living donor of this compatibility level, she's looking at potentially decades. 20, 30 years or more with proper care and anti-rejection medication. Decades. The word hung in the air like a promise. Decades of watching Eliana grow up. Decades of birthday parties and graduations and all the small, ordinary moments that made up a life. Decades Sable thought she'd lost. When can we do the surgery? Carrick asked. Sable grabbed his arm. Wait. Just wait. You need to think about this. Really think. This is permanent. This is risk. This is my choice. And I've already made it. Why? Her voice broke. After everything, after how I left, after 4 years of silence. Why would you do this? Carrick took her hand. The first time they'd really held hands since that conversation in her hospital room 2 weeks ago. Her fingers were cold, trembling. Because I love you, he said simply. I loved you when you left. I loved you through 4 years of silence. I loved you through 37 seconds of voicemail played on repeat. And I love you now. That hasn't changed. It's never going to change. Love isn't enough to ask you to do this. I'm not asking, I'm offering. There's a difference. Sable fell apart. Completely. 2 weeks of holding herself together, of processing her diagnosis, of watching Carrick show up every single day for her daughter, finally cracked. She sobbed into her hands while Mercer held her shoulder, and Carrick held her hand, and Dr. Reeves quietly excused herself to give them privacy. I don't deserve this, Sable gasped. I don't deserve you. This isn't about deserving. This is about an 3-year-old girl who needs her mother, and I can make that happen, so I'm going to. When she could finally speak again, Sable looked at him with red eyes and tear-stained cheeks. If we do this, if you donate and I survive, and we have a chance to figure out what we are, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll be present, not just for me, for Eliana, for yourself. Promise me you won't disappear into work again, that you won't build walls out of cabins and call it providing, that you'll actually be here. I promise. And if you can't keep that promise, if you start slipping, I need you to tell me. I need you to say, I'm struggling instead of just working longer hours. Can you do that? Carrick thought about Mercer's warning 4 years ago. Watch for the signs. He'd failed then. He wouldn't fail now. I can do that. But I need the same from you. No more suffering silently. No more pretending you're fine when you're drowning. If you're sinking, you tell me. Deal? Deal. Dr. Reeves knocked softly and re-entered. If we're proceeding, we need to discuss logistics, surgery scheduling, pre-op requirements, recovery planning. We're proceeding, Carrick and Sable said simultaneously. Dr. Reeves pulled out a calendar. Based on both your conditions and hospital availability, I'm proposing 4 weeks from today. That gives Mr. Dunn time to get his affairs in order and complete final pre-op testing. It gives Ms. Elliston time to stabilize further and optimize her health for surgery. 4 weeks, 20 days, 672 hours. The countdown started now. The morning arrived like both an ending and a beginning compressed into a single sunrise. Carrick woke at 4 a.m. in Sable's apartment. He'd been staying in the spare room for the past 3 weeks, helping with Eliana while both he and Sable prepared for surgery. The arrangement had started as practical. 2 people recovering would need help with an 3-year-old. But somewhere in the daily routines of breakfast and homework and bedtime stories, it had become something else, something that felt like family. He found Sable already awake in the kitchen, sitting at the table in the pre-dawn darkness. Couldn't sleep either? He asked. Too many thoughts. She looked up at him, and in the dim light from the street lamps outside, he could see the fear written across her face. What if something goes wrong? What if your kidney fails? What if I wake up and you don't? Carrick sat down beside her. Then Eliana will have Mercer and Odessa and Patricia and an entire village of people who showed up. But that's not going to happen. We're both going to wake up, we're both going to heal, and we're both going to be there when Eliana loses her first tooth. She already lost 2 teeth. You missed them. Then the 3rd one. I'll be there for the 3rd one. Sable reached for his hand. I'm scared. Me too. But you're doing it anyway. So are you. That's what courage actually is. Not the absence of fear, just doing the thing even though you're terrified. They sat in the darkness, holding hands, waiting for the sun to give them permission to face what came next. At 6 a.m., Odessa arrived to take Eliana. The plan was to keep her distracted until after the surgeries were complete. No waiting in hospitals, no watching clocks. Just a day with Aunt Odessa doing normal things while the adults did impossible ones. Eliana appeared in the doorway, Mr. Trunk under her arm, already dressed. Is it time? She asked. Sable held out her arms. Eliana climbed into her lap, careful and gentle, and buried her face in her mother's shoulder. I'm scared, Eliana whispered. Me too, baby. What if you don't come back? I'm coming back, I promise. Carrick is giving me a piece of himself so I can stay with you for a very, very long time. And when I wake up, you'll be the first person I want to see. Eliana pulled back, studying her mother's face. You promise? I promise. Pinky promise? Sable hooked her pinky with her daughter's. Pinky promise. Then Eliana turned to Carrick. You promise too? Carrick extended his pinky. I promise. I'm coming back. We both are. Eliana wrapped her arms around his neck. Thank you for saving my mom. The words hit him like a physical force. This child, who'd called him at 2:47 in the morning, who'd trusted him with the most important thing in her world, was thanking him. You saved her first, Carrick said. You pressed the star. You called for help. You're the brave one. Odessa cleared her throat from the doorway. We should go. Let them get to the hospital. Eliana pulled back reluctantly. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, baby. More than anything. I love you, Carrick. The words stopped time. This child who'd only known him for 4 weeks, who'd drawn him into her family with crayons and hope, loved him. I love you too, kiddo. Odessa took Eliana's hand. Come on, we're going to make the best pancakes, the kind with chocolate chips that your mom says are basically dessert for breakfast. Can we put whipped cream on them? Absolutely. They left, Eliana chattering about pancakes, leaving Carrick and Sable alone in the apartment they'd been sharing but not quite living in together. She loves you, Sable said quietly. She's a good kid. She's my whole world, and you're giving me more time with her. How do I ever repay that? You don't. You just live. You show up for her. You watch her grow up. That's the repayment. The surgery took 8 hours. Carrick went under first. Dr. Michaels explained the procedure one final time, asked if he had any questions, then counted him down into darkness. He woke in recovery to a nurse telling him everything had gone perfectly. His kidney was out. It was healthy. It was already inside Sable, already filtering her blood, already working. Can I see her? His voice was rough from the breathing tube. Soon. She's still in surgery. Transplant takes longer than extraction. But you'll be in adjacent rooms. You can see her when she wakes up. 3 hours later, they wheeled Sable into the recovery room next to his. She was pale, unconscious, but alive, breathing on her own, surviving. Carrick watched her through the gap between their beds, counting her breaths, matching his to hers, and thought about all the ways love shows up, not in grand gestures or perfect moments, but in the quiet choice to give when giving costs everything. She woke slowly, confused, disoriented. Where? You're in recovery, a nurse said gently. Surgery's over. The transplant was successful. Your new kidney is working beautifully. Sable's eyes found Carrick. You're okay? I'm okay. It worked? It worked. She started crying. Relief and medication and overwhelming gratitude, all compressed into tears that wouldn't stop. A nurse moved Carrick's bed closer to hers. Against protocol, probably, but Dr. Reeves had made it happen anyway. They lay there side by side, separated by a foot of space and 4 years of history, and held hands across the divide. Thank you, Sable whispered. Thank you for keeping my number. I never stopped loving you. I just stopped being able to stay. I know. I understand now. I didn't then, but I do now. What happens next? We heal, and then we figure it out. 1 year after the surgery, Carrick woke to the smell of something burning. He stumbled into the kitchen of the house they'd bought together 6 months ago, the one with the wraparound porch and the big backyard and enough room for Eliana to have her own space, and found Sable and Eliana standing over a smoking pan. We made pancakes, Eliana announced proudly. The pancakes were black, completely inedible. The smoke alarm was screaming. Carrick started laughing, really laughing. The kind that came from deep in his chest and made his healing scar pull slightly, but he didn't care. Garlic chicken, he managed. Sable was laughing too. We can't cook anything without setting off alarms. It's tradition, Eliana declared. Aunt Odessa says some families have normal traditions. We have fire alarms. They ended up eating cereal on the porch, all 3 of them in their pajamas, watching the sun come up over the mountains. Best breakfast ever, Eliana said. Even without pancakes? Sable asked. Especially without pancakes, because we're together. Carrick looked at the 2 people who'd become his entire world. Sable, healthy and strong, her kidney function perfect, her future measured in decades instead of months. Eliana, growing like a weed, already talking about what she wanted to be when she grew up, secure in the knowledge that both her parents would be there to see it. This wasn't the life he'd planned. It was better. That evening, after Eliana was asleep, Carrick and Sable sat on the porch swing he'd built last month. I got my 1-year labs back, Sable said. Carrick's heart stopped. And? Perfect. No rejection. Kidney function completely normal. Dr. Reeves said if she didn't know better, she'd think I was born with it. Relief flooded through him. That's my kidney. Always was an overachiever. Our kidney. It's ours now. She leaned against him, and he wrapped his arm around her, and they sat in the comfortable silence of 2 people who'd learned that love isn't just the dramatic moments. It's the quiet ones, the ordinary ones. The choice to stay, when staying is hard. I got something today, Carrick said. He pulled out his phone, opened the voicemail folder, the folder that had been empty for a year. I deleted the old one, he said. The 37-second goodbye, because I don't need it anymore, but I saved a new one. He pressed play. Eliana's voice filled the porch. Hi, Carrick. I mean, Daddy. I keep forgetting I can call you Daddy now. I just wanted to say I love you, and thank you for making Mom better. And thank you for reading me the dinosaur book even though I know you're tired of it. And thank you for being here. The star goes to you. That means you're special. Okay, bye. The message ended. Sable was crying. Happy tears this time. She programmed you with a star in her phone, Sable said. Just like I did. You're her emergency contact too. I'm honored. You should be. She doesn't give stars to just anyone. Carrick saved the voicemail. Not to listen to on repeat, not to preserve what he'd lost, but to remember what he'd found. A little girl who called him Daddy. A woman who'd trusted him enough to keep his number even when she couldn't keep him. A family assembled from broken pieces and second chances. The stars didn't mean emergency anymore. They meant home. "I love you," Sable said. "I love you too." Present tense, current, ongoing. "For how long?" "However long you'll let me." "That's forever, you know." "Good." They sat on the porch until the stars came out, real ones this time, scattered across the sky like promises kept, like hope realized, like second chances that didn't look like first ones but were somehow better. Inside, Eliana slept with Mr. Trunk under her arm and a drawing on her nightstand. 3 people holding hands in front of a house. Mama, Daddy, me, family. And in Carrick's phone, 2 voicemails lived side by side. The old goodbye he'd deleted, and the new hello he'd keep forever. Both from people who'd pressed a star, both saying the same thing in different words. You matter. You're wanted. You're home. The garlic chicken had burned 4 years ago, setting off alarms and sending Sable running. But sometimes, the things that burn clear the way for something better. Sometimes you have to break completely before you can rebuild right. Sometimes the star you press in the darkness leads you exactly where you need to go. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the person who answers becomes the person who stays. Not because they have to, because they choose to, every single day. That's not a fairy tale. That's just love. The stupid kind, the kind that doesn't make sense, the kind that believes in smoke alarms and burnt pancakes and pressing stars in the middle of the night, the kind that saves lives, the kind that builds families, the kind that lasts